tell me it's a walk in the park. Y'all too smart, can't talk from the heart. I got sauce and it's all for the charts. No aux in the car. Riding around bumping that first blueprint on this. I ain't trying to hear what the info is. I been trying to move on the impulsive tip. Do you want dip? I can tell you ain't having that much fun. 3 years in with your ex-boyfriend, y'all tied that knot, but it's back undone. Oh yeah, I'm trying to stack 1 ton. You ain't gotta ask where that come from. I ain't never rock no pack, son. I was on the pack at the mall, same mess. I skip class, no hallway pass. I'm team cap, you was always last. She got good hands in the all-state. I got good kids and they all came fast. I ain't gotta say it, you can come to the Ville. Just ask who's hot, they gon' all say Jack. Told me stay down, but I always have. When I come around, man, they always ask, how does it feel? Whoa. Ain't shit, tell me it's a walk in the park. Y'all too smart, can't talk from the heart. I got sauce and it's all for the charts. Started my night with the light. When I got to the club, I was all for the dark. And I'm on a wave like a dolphin and shark. Y'all took shots, they was all for the mark. Keep it rockin'.
This is not a malfunction of the calendar. It is Sunday. We felt like, you know what? We don't really have anything to talk about. Let's have a special edition of Tigers Tonight. Yeah, nothing going on. Good evening, everyone. John Maddox here. Tigers Tonight. I don't want to call it an emergency pod because I don't think there's anything like that. But it is silly season, as my name dictates, and Memphis will apparently now be taking part in said silly season. Let's start off. No introductions needed. Let's do it anyway. We may have some new folks here. Start with our northern contingent, Mr. Brian Moss. Brian, how are you, sir?
Pretty good. I knew something was up because something usually pops off if I'm in a meeting or driving on the turnpike, and I was in the meeting this morning. So yeah, that's what happened. I even texted you guys like, "Hey, just in case."
When something happens.
Mm-hmm.
Landon, welcome back in. Appreciate you filling in last week.
Anytime.
For the first part of the Hernando contingent here with us. How are you, sir?
I'm well. I've been diving into screens all day.
Yeah, last but certainly not least, on the road home from Hattiesburg, I'm assuming.
Yes, it was funny because last night, Jennifer, my wife Jennifer, were talking about the Lane Kiffin situation, and I remember telling her last night, like, these dominoes are going to fall really fast once that situation is sorted out, right? And that's exactly what happened. Like, it happened so quick that by this morning, I knew something was weird, right, guys? Real quiet.
Yeah, it's like Brian says, whenever things go quiet, that's usually a sign something's coming. So we're going to kind of do a quick roundtable here and just kind of get an overall feeling. We'll start with you, Landon. Were you surprised? What's just kind of what was your general initial kind of reaction?
Well, I'll take it back to the end of the Navy game. I think when you look at Memphis finishing 8-4 and losing 4 games in the conference, I don't think Silverfield not being the coach for next season is that surprising. I think it was logical that there could have been, a quote unquote mutual parting of ways, something like that. Now, when you take it forward to Saturday night and then into Sunday morning, I was very surprised when I saw that Silverfield was going to be the coach at Arkansas, just based on the reporting from Hog Beat, the On3 Arkansas site. It seemed like he was the third in the pecking order for them. They wanted Alex Golish, and then I think the reporting was Kane Womack, the Alabama defensive coordinator, was going to be second in line there. And Auburn ends up with Alex Golish, and then obviously Arkansas gets Silverfield, as we saw, and that all happened at the same time. It was a very busy morning. But yeah, I was pretty surprised.
Brian?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised because nothing happened after the game Friday. You didn't hear anything on Saturday. So I kind of got the feeling, I was like, well, I guess Arkansas, will, go all in on Golish. And I kind of feel that once Arkansas got that word that, hey, they're not going to get Golish, they went and asked. Now, obviously, I can't confirm this, but I think they probably went to Womack and was like, hey, yes or no? And then got to Silverfield, and Silverfield jumped at it. And when you take a look at his how much he's making, He's
6-7.
it's a no brainer. So yeah, I mean, so a little shocked because I didn't think he was high up there on his on his chart or on their chart, but hey, they got the deal done, and kudos to Silverfield.
And Landon, it's way more cringe than that, by the way. All right.
Oh, buddy.
All right, so let's kind of rewind the time clock a little bit and maybe try to put a timeline around all this. So, and I'm just going by what I have been told. So apparently, the first contact was on the bye week between Tulsa and UAB. That's what I was told,
Hmm.
and whether that's true or not, who knows? And then Memphis comes out, kind of lays that egg on UAB, and looking back, makes a little more sense now, right? Like that whole
Yeah,
thing makes a little bit more sense in terms of why Memphis played so poorly or whatever distraction. Because look, we saw this before when Memphis lost Justin Fuente to Virginia Tech. Memphis went to uh, Temple and had a horrendously terrible game. And it wasn't just the game. People around the program will tell you players stay out late. Nobody was listening to anybody. There was no curfew, on and on. And it kind of the wheels came off. And then fast forward to the reporting, was it earlier this week about Golish? That was true. I was told that was a true story that they had kind of agreed in principle, but then two things happened. Golish's camp did not want that to get out. That was his thing, and they were pissed, and that's a direct quote. They were pissed off, and and then the other job sort of kind of availed themselves. But I will say this to Alex Golish: good luck and Godspeed on the plane, sir. That's a different folk down there. that's that's a whole that's a whole nother world on the plains. And that this kind of came together, I think, as you described, very quickly when they knew Golish wasn't happening. Summerall was never on the table. They had talked to Matt Campbell, but for whatever reason, there was no mutual interest there really, and so they went to Kane Womack and said, "Hey, here's where we are." And Womack's like, "Well, we need to think about it." And Arkansas's like, "Well, we don't have time to do that." So, and Bryan, if you will, real quick, just enlighten us why this window is so compacted in terms of the recruiting calendar.
yeah. Signing day is just mere days away, Wednesday. And for Arkansas, you want someone in place because you have current commits that are iffy, and other schools are trying to poach. So you definitely, if you're Arkansas, you definitely want someone in there before Wednesday. And now, when you're Memphis, one would assume that you definitely want someone in there before Wednesday. Um, I can see them not going. I could see them taking their time and not having someone during the um, Wednesday time period because in the G5 or G6, and Memphis, just like last year, Memphis relied heavily on the transfer portal, and it may be that whoever gets the Memphis coaching gig, if it's not this Wednesday, that they're going to rely heavily on the transfer portal.
Larry, I want to go back to you. You had to jump off and jump back on, and want to kind of get your just general sense of, were you surprised? What was the first PG thing that popped into your head? And just
Um,
whatnot.
well, all right. So after last week, we had talked about how well run the program has been under Ryan, and I got a lot of pushback from these keyboard anarchists, GTG on Twitter and all these different guys, right? And my sense of it was that they're 10%ers, okay? And by that I mean they're guys that like 90% of what the coach does, but there's 10% of it they don't like, and there's stuff that we see all the time, like none of our players really have any academic. players have had legal problems. None of our players are, you don't hear about any infighting and crap like that. I mean, there's just a lot of things about the program. It things that those guys go, or how many times has a guy left Memphis under Silverfield and went and just balled out somewhere else? Didn't happen. Because they're great talent evaluators. So everybody will go, I really didn't think about that. Well, those are things we did think about under Silver. And so, yeah, he has some in-game issues. If you lose a couple of games, you should have lost. Yes. Did he rely on analytics too much? Yes. But the 90% of what he did for our program was great. And he moved the program forward and looked better than it was. So my initial thoughts were, man, I hope all those schools are right and that we get someone to actually better. Because the truth is, the odds are he's
Yeah, I mean, that's the crux. So, you know, the reception of Silverfield at Arkansas has not been great. I'll just call it like it is. It's been very bad, and but I think the part that people don't understand is like that doesn't enter the coach's mind, right? Like that's not. This is about, can I win? Do I have the right resources? And what's the money look like? In
Hmm.
according per coach in varying orders of those degrees. Um, so Landon, I'll ask you. You're still relatively young and new around these parts. What is Arkansas getting?
Arkansas is getting a coach in Silverfield that, when it comes to the aspect of program organization off the field and in the building, is top tier. He's world class in that regard. You don't hear about any nonsense, I guess is the word to use, around Memphis's program during the season. That building it's orderly. Every person in there, from the roster to the nutrition staff and everybody in between, is kept in line and kept in order, and that's a testament to him. He's an awesome recruiter. I think it's pretty hard, especially for people who aren't plugged in as much to the G6 ranks. It's hard to gauge G6 coaches as recruiters just because they're not fishing in the same pool as SEC schools. But I think Silverfield's done a solid job recruiting in his time at Memphis. Now, I do agree with the quote unquote keyboard warriors in that Silverfield sometimes can leave some to be desired as an on field coach. I think there's definitely been times where it's fair to question in game decisions, among other things. And then obviously, let's just say it how it is. He was at Memphis for 6 years and he didn't make the conference championship game in the American. I think that if you're just going to hang your hat on one negative for Silverfield, it's that right there.
Yeah, couldn't agree with that more. Bryan, from a recruiting perspective, what is Arkansas getting?
Yeah, they're definitely getting someone who knows how to, work the portal, work with a budget, and I think that's going to benefit Arkansas well. I'm sure he'll have a lot bigger budget, and so that way he can go after bigger recruits that fit his system. But let's face it, Silverfield is a smart recruiter, and he'll work the state of Arkansas, and you're right there next to Texas, so I imagine he'll hit Texas, pretty hard. But Memphis, depending on who they get. And the staff that they will have could take a hit in recruiting because this staff has has a bunch of excellent recruiters.
All right, so that's enough of not, and I don't mean this to be whatever sound like, but it's enough about the past. Let's kind of move into the future. Um, so, the problem if you're Memphis is, first of all, Reggie Howard, former Memphis defensive back, is your interim head coach. What's his job on staff right now?
DBs.
That's right, DBs. Yeah, that's right. Makes sense considering he was one. So you're looking ahead, and now you've got Reggie Howard, and I think you're going to have a couple things happen here in the next few days. Look for the transfer portal to light up for Memphis. Memphis had 78 new players this year. I haven't roster dove I'm sure that you will see a pretty sizable exodus between those that can go with Ryan and dependent upon, Brian, as you said, the new coach. So you're Memphis and you're on the clock, and it is uh, November 30th. You have signing day on the 3rd. Didn't the portal window, doesn't it open in 5 days as well? Because I'm trying
No,
to remember. Huh?
it switched to where it's one time out of the year, January 2nd, I
No,
believe.
no,
Yeah.
there's still, isn't there still a coaching
Well, for Memphis, yeah,
for
because since
Memphis? Yeah.
Memphis coach left, yes,
It's
there
when
was
you
just
hire the new coach, right? So when you hire the new coach, it's open for
That's correct.
yeah,
10 days. But
That's
see,
right.
I don't, but you're going to be up against that window anyway.
yes.
I mean, so if you're Memphis, you actually can maybe use this to your advantage because you're going to kind of get two back-to-back portal windows that a lot of places won't get. You'll get the initial, and then you'll get the one in January. Um, so guys, anybody wants to jump in? Where do you if you're coming to Memphis, do you assume that the cupboard's going to be bare and you just get to work, or is there maybe with agents and such now, do you think there's some advanced work on, hey, player X, can you stick around, we're going to do X, Y, and Z? I mean, how is this going to work in this brand new era?
Let Landon go first.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, I don't know the extent, but I'm sure there is some back channeling done in this process. But back to your first point, yeah, I think it's pretty much going to be this coach comes in and he's going to have to build the team. It's going to be like it was last year where Ryan brought in 78 players or whatever it was. It's going to be that way. One thing I'm very interested in is the quarterback position. I think when you're talking about a football organization, whether it's at the pro level or the Division I level, I think your offensive play caller, your quarterback, and your offensive line are like three of the most important units in your organization. And obviously, Memphis is going to have a question mark at all three, but there are two guys in the quarterback room that are slated to come back to college football next year, and AJ Hill and Arrington Maiden, that it's obviously going to be up in the air, or either of them are going to be on the roster next season. Because I think it's fair to say that in a world where they both came back, one of them was going to be the starter. I don't think this was a situation had Silverfield stayed where he went out and got another B-Lou type of 1 year guy. I think one of those two were slated to be the guy. So that's where I have my eyes on the most, as I'm sure many fans will.
Yeah, I agree. And Memphis can use this as an advantage too, because you could tell the recruits, you could tell the current players, listen, yes, you could put your name into the portal, now, because of the coaching change, but we have a month before the regular portal opens in January. Give us 1 month. Can you do that? Just give us a month and see what we do. So, I think it can be a benefit for Memphis to keep some of the players together. And, we'll see. We'll definitely see what happens. And it looks like I just looked at the Twitter machine, and Memphis general manager Scott Gasper is expected to join Silverfield at Arkansas. So Memphis will be looking for a new general manager.
And,
Um,
and Brian, what did I tell you and Larry about 3 years ago?
yep.
That head coach is obviously important. I mean, that's important. And to your point, Landon, your play caller, your quarterback, your O-line are important. Because as I just literally had a buddy who's watching text me, I won't out him. He said, anybody can catch the ball and run fast with it. It takes somebody different to throw them the ball and somebody to call them the play and put them in the right spot. I'm here to dispute that. I could not catch the ball and run fast. That's neither here nor there. I make up for being small by being slow. Um, but I do think that the general manager, right? Like or everybody calls it something different. GM, director, player personnel. It's all the same guy. Yeah, it's the what's his name from Moneyball? Jonah.
Peter Brand,
Yeah, yeah,
Jonah Hill.
yeah. It's like,
Jonah Hill.
he talks about in the movie, he said, you're trying to buy players and you need to buy runs. And that's kind of where we are here, right? Is you are assembling, you're no longer recruiting, you are assembling a roster. And I think that's a really big distinction. And a lot of people pop back at me when I said, look, this is going to be a total rebuild. not from a negative standpoint, although our players are terrible. And everybody said, well, we did okay with 78 players this year, blah, blah, blah. Here's what I would remind people of. Number one, y'all are the same folks that were ready to run this dude out of town that brought those 78 players here. And number two, as Landon said, Ryan's a hell of a recruiter. And Bryan has said this, and I've said, and we've all said this. There is still a recruiting element to this because there are some guys here that are here because of Ryan. Now, the check does not hurt, but they're here because of Ryan. And I think,
John, I don't mean to interrupt, but look, there is a recruiting, but really more than anything, it's a player evaluation
yeah,
more than recruiting at this point. So Nick Saban said it best, I think, last year when talking about Ohio State. And he said, you can have the biggest budget in the world, but if you pay the wrong players, you're shit out of luck. Okay?
he broke the internet.
And he's right. Like, the thing about Ryan, and I've talked this on the show many times, the college game came to him. He was more of a pro guy. The college game came to him. He became a good college coach because it became more of a pro game. And so instead of actually recruiting a guy and trying to figure out what he's going to be in 3 years, you're looking for somebody right now who can help you next year, and you're a talent evaluator. That's what we need is a talent evaluator, not a recruiter. Therein lies the really hard part of what being a college coach is today.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right, so you're Reggie Howard, you're Memphis, you're holding a roster together for a bowl game. I mean, Ryan Silverifield is literally in Fayetteville already. We're not going to have any of the Lane Kiffin nonsense. Oh, just put everybody's mind at ease. Smarty Smith has been released from Oxford. He is apparently headed home to his family. No injuries were reported. So thank goodness. That poor dude, man. Talk about somebody who's been through it in the last.
Yeah, so salute to him. He looked like he's aged about 10 years in that 24 hours, however long it was.
So you're going to have, because what you're going to see is, I don't know that it'll be as bad. UAB's injury report yesterday, this is totally different. Their availability, I'm sorry, is what they call it. There were 39 players listed as out yesterday for UAB, and they cobbled together a win. So, I don't think it will be that bad. I think it's going to depend on the new staff. We'll get there in a second. But if you're Memphis, if you're the athletic department now, and you're starting to, this is now we start kind of hashing out bowl games, who's going where, blah, blah, blah. Is this a case, do you guys think of, let's get a game, get it over with, and move on with all of our lives?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think you worry about opponents.
Yeah,
you worry
I
about
agree.
P5. I don't think you worry about location. I don't think any of that
earliest game you can get, baby.
Ryan always preferred that too. And he said, what, if we're not playing, he never used the word didn't matter. But if we're not playing in one of the big games, I don't want the kids here over Christmas. And I think this is appropriate for that. So do not be surprised if Memphis takes the first bowl that they can, and I'm going to dig into that this week, that they would be available for. I just think there's no sense in it. You're not going to see Memphis. That's the thing that the bowl will need to understand from a attendance perspective. This is not going to be Memphis. You're not going to, this is not going to be a big crowd, so on and so forth. So we move from there. Let's just assume that by the end of this week, you've got a guy hired. I'm going to put each of you on the spot. Who you got? Bryan, we'll start with you.
Well, since you're starting with me, I'll take the easy way out. And I could go the easy way out and say Dan Mullen, but I would hope that it's an extensive search like I was, told it was going to be. But I would like to see another up-and-coming coach, a young coach, a coach that's been at Memphis before. I'm going to say Holman Wiggins. Now, I don't know if he's been contacted yet. I just wrote the article about him, but He's been at Memphis. He's been at Virginia Tech with Fuente. He's been to Alabama, and that's where he coached and recruited a lot of 4 and 5-star players. He got Devontae Smith. He helped him win the Heisman. He was the associate head coach under Nick Saban. There's a lot to like about Holman Wiggins. So if I'm Ed Scott, I'm hiring Holman Wiggins.
All right, Landon Speck, you have now become Virginia graduate in Memphis AD Ed Scott. What you
I hate to be lame, but I agree with Brian. Now, I will say, out of all the candidates, there is the most information and buzz around Dan Mullen, and I do think Dan Mullen would be a great hire. But my thing with Holman Wiggins is, Brian said it. He was the associate head coach under Nick Saban, and he is now the co-offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. So he's going on, 5 or 6 years where he's been a part of an elite program, and he knows what the highest levels of success looks like. And I think there's only so many guys out there. And he also let that fit that mold. And he's also fits the mold of a younger guy. I believe he's in his mid 40s. And like I said, I mean, I hate to give the boring answer, but he checks a lot of boxes for me.
All right, Larry. Uh-oh. I knew it. Larry was going to try to bail out of this thing. Larry, who you got? If you were UVA graduate,
I'm here. I'm here.
who would you hire? I don't know that he can hear me.
You're barely here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's hanging on. All right, so I will not be a lame-o, and I will say it's time for Tyson Helton to end up at the University of Memphis as the head football coach. The Helton family had a long tradition here. I think Kim worked here for a little bit. I know Clay did. Tyson did. Tyson is currently the head coach at Western Kentucky. I don't. So I had a discussion about this too, and I think a lot of people think when I say this is the most important football hire in Memphis history, they say, "Well, you've said that the previous times." Well, that's because it's been true the previous times. But
Yeah.
now, and I'll just use that as an example. Boise State was the darling for how many years? That's all everybody wanted to talk about, Boise State, Boise State. And I said on this show, I said Boise State is a couple of 7-5 seasons away from the island of relevancy. And WWE reference there for those who don't know. And it was right. Nobody talks about Boise State anymore. And when you've had a program that has worked, as Landon said and Brian, and we've talked about, like, worked like a top in terms of a program, not necessarily, whatever, but as a program, not just on the field, you got to keep that going because that's your lifeblood. You got to keep the program together, or you burn the whole damn thing down and you build your own. I don't know that would work here at Memphis. I don't know that we have that kind of time from a financial standpoint because we've had just USF is the first school to commit to full revenue share. In the G5, I think Memphis will be very close behind that. I think Tulane's probably close behind that. And then I think a couple of the Sunbelt schools might be close behind that. But this is a different era. So it appears that everybody is scrambling. That's because you don't have the benefit of time, right? You can't give a guy. Ryan's not going to get, what, they give him a 7-year contract?
I think it was
5-6 years. Ryan's getting 2 or 3 tops. Like, if it's not working, he will not be the coach when Memphis visits Fayetteville. Like, Mike is going to get 1 more year, maybe the whole season, but I doubt it if things don't turn around there. Eric Morris is going to get 2 years at Oklahoma State. I don't care what people say. Like, because you can't afford to fall behind because then it's so hard to catch up. So there's the rub, and there's why this hire is so important. And I also had somebody say to me, well, you got to hire a big name. That hasn't been Memphis's success. Memphis's success was Justin Fuente, whom I'll be honest, I had never heard of until the day he was hired.
Mm-hmm.
and then Mike Norvell, who I had heard of, but only because through Todd Graham and a lot of that stuff, like you could tell that he kind of had it. You know what I mean? Like he and Dan Lanning and Dillingham, they kind of have it, and you can see that just off the wall. But what does I said that when Memphis hired John Calipari's basketball coach a long time ago, you need to be a certain kind of dude, right? Like you've got to have a chip on your shoulder and you've got to be able to be a guy that can do more with less. That's why Larry Porter didn't work. Well, a lot of reasons Larry Porter didn't work. One of the reasons was Memphis didn't have a private jet to fly you to Florida to go see recruits on Friday night. Like that's just, Memphis is not LSU. So that's another reason. Another candidate that's come up a lot is Jerry Mack. Now, those maybe not informed, Jerry Mack is currently the head coach at Kennesaw State. This was their second FBS year.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. They've only been a program for 10 years since 2015.
Yeah. And so
it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. The guy that kind of built the program, they let go last year there was much fanfare around it. Kennesaw State's 9-3 this year. Jerry Mack is 40-18 as a college coach. He won at North Carolina Central. And so when I'm looking at coaches, I look for guys that have won in really hard situations. Like if you're gonna hire an established coach, I want to see somebody that's won in some really tough spots. This is a reason, Western Kentucky, not a great spot. It's one of the reasons I would be on a Tyson Helton train. But if I want to be on the Dan Mullen train, people have no concept of how difficult it is to win in Starkville, Mississippi. None. That is one of the hardest jobs in the country because you are in the middle of nowhere. Please, state friends, don't hate me when I say this. You're second fiddle in your state. You're in and now with NIL, you're up against it. Not that different. The Mississippi State and the Arkansas job there's a lot of similarities there. Probably more money at Arkansas, but so Larry, what qualities, and I'll get each of you here, what qualities are you looking for if you had to hire the next head coach at Memphis? Not necessarily a person, but what are maybe 2 or 3 qualities they need to have?
Organization, first and foremost. They have to be organized. I want to see a track record of that. I want to see a track record of being able to assemble a roster because roster assembly now is the critical thing. If you can stay organized, keep your players going forward. There was some guy on Twitter, Jaw Tran or some crap like that. I was given this discussion of going forward, moving your players forward. What does that mean? You want to know what that means? That means a player improving your players and your team. So you want to see organization, a guy who knows how to keep things organized, keep practices organized. In the Larry Porter era, we talked about this so many times. I cannot tell you how unorganized practices were. It was all over the place. So the key thing here again is someone who knows how to keep the coaches going forward, keep the players going forward, and keep the organization of the team. Again, I think Landon said it perfectly. Efficiency. When you're in the season, people who've never played do not understand the how quickly everything goes. You go from week to week. Everything is just so quick. You have practice, game. Then maybe a day off or 2 days off. But you're getting treatment and video, and then practice, game. And people don't realize that it's so hard to keep yourself motivated and going forward because you're hurt and all that. So this guy has got to be able to manage all of that. I don't know if you guys remember, but we had Ryan on, and one of my questions for him was, what's the thing that surprised you the most? about being a head coach? And his answer, very introspective, his answer was all the other stuff I had to do other than coaching. I don't know if you guys remember that, but
Mhm.
I think I know what he's talking about. He was talking about the keeping the other coaches and players organized, going in the same direction, because it cannot be understated how important that is.
You're muted, John.
All right, Landon. What about you? What are a couple qualities that do you think that a head football coach needs in today's game?
Well, a lot of it is evergreen for almost every job, and I'm going to agree with what Larry said with the organization thing. I think Silverfield had that program as organized as one can be, as I talked about earlier. So I think whoever it is needs to be able to keep that going. And then I'll move on. The next thing is people take this for granted because I feel like the sentiment is that every football coach has this, but this guy, whoever it is, needs to just be relentless in his work. They can't be like an example I'll use because it was very public was at the end for Hugh Freeze. There was so much talk at Auburn. There was so much talk about him golfing, during game weeks and overall just being lazy. And I think that's something that it's almost par for the course for big time football coaches. But I think when you do see that there are cases where coaches just are lazy, it just grinds you. It can grind your gears. So whoever it is definitely needs to have that. And then the last thing I'll say is I think staff is so important. Whether it's your on-field coaching staff, whether it's your support staff, your recruiting staff, whoever it is needs to have connections to bring in a good staff around them. Because to me, those assistants, those guys are just as important as your head coach.
And that's one thing Memphis has had is staff continuity and consistency for a G5 program. It's been really good. Ryan, what are some qualities you look for?
To add to all that, just relentless. Someone that's willing to work. In Memphis, you're going to have to, always be recruiting because you're going to have to recruit your own kids to stay, and you're going to have to recruit kids to come to your school. So I think you're going to need someone who's a tireless worker, who's just always going to be working. And that's one thing that Silverfield did very well, is he was always manning his phones. He was always in contact with recruits and his players. So I don't want to say you need someone like Silverfield, but you need someone like Silverfield because I think
Well, again, like we said, he was 90%
Mhm.
of what you would want in a head coach, right? And and so like yes, were there on-field things? Yes. I mean, did if you want to hang your hat on, first of all, if we were in the old CUSA system where there was an East and West, he would have been to a championship game. I don't want to get into
yeah,
that anymore. And
yeah.
if Norvell had been in this system, he would have only gone to two. So instead of three. So I don't want to get into this too much, other than just to say that uh, I thought Ryan did a hell of a job, especially these last.
Oh,
And
well,
he's gone.
let me get him back in here.
He's back.
I'm
The
sorry.
KG knocked you out.
Oh well, I'm sorry, but no, but I thought he did a hell of a job the last 4 years. I was very critical of him early on. You guys know that. We had him on the show. I was critical of him to his face. He took it and turned me around. And I will simply say this: yes. Did I think he needed to improve some things? Yes. Did I think that Thursday night was a clear reflection of him having one foot out the door? Yes, no question.
Really?
But yeah, I did. I do.
We'll talk more
I
about that Tuesday, but
yeah, we'll talk more about that on Tuesday. But I do. I really do. I think. Um, I don't know that he knew he was gone, but I think it was trending in that direction by Thursday. But I don't know that. So anyway, but yes, Ryan is 90% of what you want, and you nailed it, Brian. Like we have to find somebody that has those qualities, or at least the majority of those qualities.
I think
Yeah,
we've
what
got
you don't want is someone who relies on analytics over gut instinct. That's where something, and of course, You guys know how I feel about analytics. There's a time and a place for it, but you can't,
Here's the
you know,
card.
one.
Here's the analytics card, right? There,
Yep.
that's what you do with that damn card. Anyway, we're going to talk more about that in depth on
Yes.
Tuesday. But one thing, seriously, that I think you do need too is you got to have a chip on your shoulder, right? Like you're at the premier G5 job. And that's not John Maddox saying that. That is multiple national writers say that the three best, and they list Memphis first. The three best group of five jobs are open right now. That's Memphis, South Florida, Tulane. Those are the three best. You know, I'm willing to listen about San Diego State maybe or Boise, but not really. I just, and you can put them in whatever order. I think you've got to be a little bit, pardon my French, and this is one thing John Calipari was good at. You got to be a little bit of a dick. You've got to have a little chip on your shoulder, and you know when I liked Justin Fuente when they hired him. I thought, you know what, football guy. Like I always thought Justin would be a better NFL coach than he was a college coach because he don't want to shake babies and kiss hands. He wants to coach football. Um, and I liked him. I thought he was, whatever. The night against UT Martin, his first game, which we lost by the way, 10-7, he picked up a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for yelling at a ref. Should have gotten thrown out because he actually bumped the ref. I say, that's our guy. Memphis needed somebody to fight for Memphis and to scratch and claw for Memphis. And they've all done it in different ways. Justin, that's kind of how he manifested it. Mike was more of just tireless worker type, and Ryan was more of a tireless worker. But Mike was also a champion of Memphis, right? Like he talked the city up. You'd see him at Memphis in May, and then you'd see him at Gibson's Donuts. Like you'd see him around town. Like he was a Memphis champion, and he had a little chip on his shoulder about Memphis when people would talk bad. So I think you can't be meek at a place like Memphis. I'm trying to think of somebody who's pretty meek, who's a good coach. Not really meek's not the right word. This is why it's hard because you've got to have like some bravado about
Well,
yourself.
Heupel is
Michael's a
not.
little meek. He's not
Yeah,
a self
he's
promoter.
yes. I mean, he's a good coach, but he's not that in your face kind of a guy.
Lane
And
Kiffin's not
Ryan
really
was
that kind of
not
guy either.
meek. I don't think. I think Ryan was. He reminded me of like this old coach that I had in college who was just he would sit there and by the way, it was he was Helton's great uncle, by the way. Ty Helton's great uncle. He was our offensive coordinator. And he would just sit at practice and just stare, take everything in. And then the next thing you know, like he's drawing up stuff. That's the way I looked at Silverfield. He was very observant, at least to me, I
Analytical.
thought.
Yeah. Another thing I would like to see is the next coaching staff recruit and develop more of Memphis players because there's a lot of talent in Memphis. I mean, where's the Anthony Miller of this group? Where is Tony Pollard? You don't see too many Memphis players coming to Memphis and being developed. And I guess some of that could be, the transfer portal nowadays, but still, I think a place like Memphis needs a hometown hero, someone to look at least one. And, hopefully the next staff, the next head coach can make some inroads with the high school coaches around here.
All right, so timeline. Here's kind of, and you guys can just chime in here. Here's what I think happens. I think Memphis moves very quickly because you've got a couple reasons. We've talked about signing day and all that. The other two best jobs in the G5 are also open as well. South Florida.
USF may have closed. Mac may be going to USF. It's unconfirmed, but I did see that.
Ooh, that would be, Jerry Mack's going to be a good hire for anybody. Also, congratulations to Michigan State. They fired a coach and signed Pat Fitzgerald within an hour and 30 minutes. That literally they announced that Jonathan
That's
Smith was out.
that's the
And
that's
then,
the that's where they've already got that arranged. and that's all done, signed, sealed, and delivered. The only thing they got to do is fire their coach.
But you know, I said that when people were on the let's fire Ryan train. I said Ryan Silverfield's 50-25 at Memphis. 50-25. If you're going to fire him, you damn well better have your guy. You absolutely better have your guy. Because if not, you're going to be left twisting in the wind and pissing in the wind a little bit. Um,
And if this goes south, I've got receipts for all those people telling me how wrong I was and that we can definitely do better. We should be better. I've got the receipts. I'm just telling you, you do not. Just don't want to be anywhere near me. If this, I hope to hell this goes great. I hope it's awesome. I hope the next guy kills it. But if he doesn't, I'm going to be on your ass.
I just want to know if you have receipts of Landon Speck saying he could beat Caitlin Clark in a game of one-on-one 11-4.
He
Those are
does
the
now. Yeah, there's one in the group chat now.
yeah, yeah. The only thing that's popped more than Twitter today is probably the group chat. So I'm going to assume Memphis moves real quick. Like I'll be stunned if we're sitting here next weekend. Like I'll just be shocked. Or we are sitting here on Sunday, and I think if this gets Wednesday, Thursday, that tells you kind of who you're going after. That'll be a tell. Um, Tell me you want to hire a head coach that's in a championship game without telling me you want to hire a head coach that's in a championship game. Because I think what you're going to start seeing administrations do a little bit, and they are very self-serving. It's all about money. It's all about all those things that we all say it is. Nobody wants to be LSU right now. Nobody, no other administration wants to be what Lane Kiffin is right now. No administration wants to be the bad guy long term. So I think you're going to start seeing things kind of come back a little bit to where if Memphis wants to hire, we'll just use Dan Mullen as an example. We're not going to press that issue. It's already going to be after signing day. Let Dan coach his team. This isn't like this is a completely, and I think it's an overreaction too to think like, oh my God, you're going to have Lane Kiffin situations every year. No, you're not. This is a very unique situation where a rival wants to hire a coach going into the CFP. You're just not usually
Same
going to,
conference. Same
and we're
conference rival.
what 5 hours from each other, 6 hours from each other. I mean, so you're not going to see that all the time. And I think you are going to see not this, oh, how sweet they are, but like this come back a little bit and say, all right, how do we do this without totally blowing things up? Because I'll just share here, we've shared this elsewhere. One of Dan Mullen's sticking points to taking another job, he's been at UNLV for a year. And, that still in some ways means something to guys. I don't want to take a job and then turn around and take the next job. Not to say that dollar signs, because I think I said in the chat, I think I said, well, you increase the the value of those digits and those feelings get eased. And that's certainly the case. But I just think you're going to see a kind of a slinking back a little bit to say, okay, how can we have silly season? Which y'all, my name there could not be more true. I am a lover of silly season. Flight Aware, well, for other reasons, Flight Aware is one of the top used apps on my phone. I love it. I get into it. I think it's great. It's great entertainment. I do think people can cross the line a little bit, but I do love the silliness and the business aspect of it. But I do think you're going to start to see this kind of come back to sensibility in some ways, where if Memphis wants to hire Dan Mullen and we can't get the deal done Monday, fine. We can have an MOU. We can have a memorandum of understanding. We can have something in place where I don't have to announce it Monday. Let Dan coach his team Saturday and hire him on Sunday. Or, if you're going to hire Kane Womack, I'll just use him as an example. Let's get through the playoff, the championship game. Let's go from there. Like, there's no other than this December 3rd, which I think, Brian, you were one that was pretty opposed to the signing day window being December 3rd. Makes more sense in January, February to me,
Yeah.
just to me.
I agree.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
it makes far more sense.
As far as the timeline, I guess let me say I don't think they'll hire someone before Wednesday. I think they need to, but I don't think they will.
I think it's because Ed Scott knows how important this is. This is his big hire, right? Because, he hired, this is his big hire. And when people can, I don't even want to say this. I'm tired of the basketball versus football thing. Apples and oranges, right? Like apples and oranges. I'm tired of it. If you are one that's purveying this, then unfollow me, block me. I don't care. Stop it.
And
It's
you're wrong.
stupid. And
You're
you're wrong.
wrong.
A
You're
hundred
wrong.
percent.
Football does not take anything from basketball. Football program has never taken a dime. It's always been the whole argument is, well, if we had their money, it's not the way this works. Basketball's never. First of all, I don't know of any player that Penny wanted that he couldn't afford to get. Let's start with that. If you want to go around the NBA, like it's
I'm sorry, y'all.
littered with Memphis basketball players. So,
I'm sorry, y'all.
yeah, I mean,
Anyway,
no,
no,
I'm
but
sorry.
no,
You nailed it, John. So this is ridiculous. It's just a
that
ridiculous argument.
that's my thing, and I think Ed Scott understands that because here's what I say to people that I've had people that say to me, well, why don't you put more resources towards basketball? That's great. Ask Kansas how that almost worked out for Kansas, not fringe top 50 college basketball program Memphis. Kansas, how that almost worked out for them. You can't, and we've got to stop. But I will also tell those of you who are younger and may not know, dude, this has been going on for 30-ish years. Like when I remember when I was in college, it was a thing. But the two things don't equate. But back to the reality here. Ed Scott knows without a doubt that he has to get this hire right. This is the most important football hire in Memphis history. And that doesn't mean that Mike Norvell and Justin Fuente weren't the most important. It's just the goalposts have moved. All right. So before we get out of here, Landon, I'll start with you. What is the biggest mistake Memphis could make with this hire?
Um, I think, just to be honest and not overthink it, it could just be to get a guy that doesn't meet the qualities that we talked about earlier. It could be a guy that comes in and he doesn't understand the job. I think we all hit on the relentlessness they need to have. They need to have the chip on their shoulder and the edge about them. I think if it's a guy that comes in and doesn't embrace the city, doesn't embrace the blue collar culture, and doesn't embrace what it takes to be successful at Memphis, I think that's the worst thing they can do, just from the pure perspective of who they hire.
Larry?
I I think that overall, well, first of all, let me ask you guys this, and let me just ask it this way: right now, today, if you were a coach, what would you think of the Memphis football program?
I think, especially from the standpoint of just the G6, I think we've talked about multiple times so far tonight how you're walking into a situation where it's a full roster rebuild, but also I think out of all the full roster rebuilds you can walk into, it's a pretty dang good situation considering that it's a full rebuild, because you're going to get obviously the FedEx support, the NIL support. You have the resources to put together a good roster, and John has mentioned this a lot with Silverfield. Silverfield left the program in just as good or a better spot than you found it. And so I think you're walking into something that already has a solid foundation, and you have the tools to rebuild this thing right away.
And you can, if we're being real, because something our friends in North Texas have had to learn, and now to an extent Ole Miss is having to learn, coaches aren't going to be here forever. And you can take the Memphis, let's just call it like a lot of people see it. Ryan Silverfield, on-field product was fairly mid. I think we can all agree with that. He never met
Yeah,
expectations.
yeah, with the
He
exception of
parlayed
a year or
that
two.
into the Arkansas job. Look at the last 3 jobs Memphis coaches have left for: Virginia Tech, Florida State, Arkansas. None of those are blue bloods. Florida State fringe,
Florida State's borderline. It's French.
borderline, but they're good. Ryan tripled his salary minus a few bucks. Justin tripled his salary. Mike tripled his salary, and it's not just about the money. It's about you can come to Memphis. We're going to hire Jeb to come to Memphis. Jeb knows that he's only got to be here he's got to have 2 good years. He's got to maybe go 8-4, 10-2, get to the championship game. Boom, he's going to get a better job, because I think you're going to start seeing acceleration now because LeBron,
Signetti.
huh?
Signetti.
Kurt Signetti blew the curb for everybody else.
He ruined it for everyone.
He ruined it. For
Yeah,
everybody.
he ruined it.
But I think but John hit on it, is that ADs are not going to wait around as long. You're not going to see someone give someone 4 years. Napier probably held on too long at Florida. By the way, I think he'd be a good coach at the G5 level. Whatever, whole different
Thank you.
argument. But the point is, he's a G5 coach. But point is, like, that is real. You're not going to see. So for Memphis, if you're a guy coming into Memphis, you're going to look at that and say, I can take that job, I can be successful, and in 3 or 4 years, I can be at Louisville or Kansas, or I mean, insert job and triple my salary. And that's so I guess to answer your question, the main thing for a coach coming in here, they're going to be looking at is they have as good a facility as anywhere that's not in the P4, and they have the resources that are basically unparalleled at their level, right at the mid-major level.
Brian, what's a mistake you think Memphis could make?
Hiring someone who's not well connected. You don't want someone to come into Memphis because you're going to have to work the portal. You're going to have to work other your own school. I don't want Memphis to hire someone maybe with a big name or whatnot, but not just come in here and not know what they're doing. Just expecting, Memphis has the facilities, I don't have to work as hard. You're still going to have to work hard. I want them to have a Rolodex like Silverfield had. Silverfield could pull info, pull coaches from the NFL if he wanted to, because he worked in the NFL, forever. I really want the next guy to have, really good connections, because he's going to need it.
I think that's spot on. Yeah, spot on. I mean, I mentioned the staff thing, and that's a part of that too.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the connections.
Just don't try to win the press conference, Ed.
Exactly.
Look,
Yes.
we saw Justin didn't exactly win his press conference. Mike was fine. He wasn't who everybody wanted, and Silverfield probably wasn't either. None of them won the press conference. Don't win the press conference.
Another thing I don't want is, now I don't think he'd do this, but Ed Scott and other Memphis admin telling the coach who to hire for their staff. Let the head coach hire their staff, because that's one thing Larry Porter didn't have the luxury. He didn't have the luxury of hiring who he wanted. He was told who to hire on certain coaches. I mean, that's already a no-go.
Yeah, I think you guys have hit all the points on how Memphis could mess this up. I think Memphis needs to take their time. Yes, I know Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day of the week it is signing day, whatnot. But here's how I operate from that perspective, y'all. If Ryan Silverfield wants the recruits he's recruited here at Memphis, he gonna recruit them to Arkansas. Like, if we're just being real, like if he looks at that list of, I don't know how many commits there are, and he says, you know what, I want these 16 guys, they're going to
22, I think 22 or 21 or 22. And there's already one. I posted it on the message board, which running back, that's the hint, said that he would go to he would go to Arkansas as Silverfield asked him to,
Yeah, and I
and
think
I
that's
do
the
see that
reality.
coming.
So I think that's why you don't even worry about Wednesday if you're Memphis. Now, do I expect Memphis to move very quickly? Absolutely, because not so much from a recruiting perspective, but keep South Florida and keep Tulane from hiring the guy that you want. Like that. That's the
I
whole
do think you
goal.
need to hire someone before they hire someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But
Or at the very least, have a commitment that we may not know who we're going to hire, but Ed Scott needs to know who he's going to hire before USF and Tulane know who they're going to hire.
And
I,
he's been looking around before today. So if any fans out there, this started before, because I think Dr. Scott knew something was going to happen, and he was prepared. I said on the message board on Monday, he's been active behind the scenes.
we joked about RC Johnson having the list in his top drawer of coaches. Oh, Landon, if you could have only been here for the RC Johnson era.
It was comedy gold. It was like you could do a show without even trying. I mean, RC was just it
I hate
was
I hate to show my age. What year was this?
Let's see, RC came. Let's see,
11,
RC was with no,
2011,
RC
20.
was here with Rip,
It was
wasn't he?
before that.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying for us,
Yeah, well,
2011 or
RC.
so.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh,
because
RC
we
had to be mid to late '90s,
because
early 2000s.
he resigned basically the night they fired Porter. They're on the plane flying back from Hattiesburg, and he basically told everybody that he was going to quit. I could tell that story later if you guys want to hear, but
So yeah, that
it's
was
true.
yeah. Also, funny note about Dan Mullen. I looked it up. I didn't realize Memphis played Mississippi State. Mullen was there,
Yep,
and Memphis lost by a combined score of 109-28. Um, just
that was the
sidebar.
Porter years. Yep,
Dark,
Sounds riveting.
yeah, dude, it was a dark time.
it
But
it
anyway,
was bad.
let's not relive that. So, well, we're gonna wrap it up. We don't
I'm
really.
going to add because I didn't get to add this. I don't know if anybody mentioned Tyson Helton, but if you did mention, nobody mentioned Tyson Helton, as I wasn't on when you guys were saying. I do say I think Tyson Helton would be a great hire. I don't know that he's going to get the job. I think some other people would have to say no first.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, again, timeline. I think we could have a hire by Wednesday. I don't think we will. We'll talk about the. I want to focus on the Navy game on Tuesday night because it's coming into the festive season. I got lots of problems with some people, and y'all are going to hear about it on Tuesday.
Grievances will be aired.
All right, so that's going to do it for this very special edition, the after school edition of Tigers Tonight. Special thank you to our guy Landon Speck, who's cranking it out and doing great work. Larry and Brian, this is John. We will talk to everybody on Tuesday.